The first sound wasn't shouting. It was metal screaming across concrete. A wheelchair scraped violently over the courthouse plaza, the sharp grind echoing off glass and stone. Late afternoon sunlight burned white against the federal building, reflecting off raised phone screens like scattered signals of distress. Officer Daniel Harrow's fists were locked around the push handles, and he was dragging. Marcus Ellison's body snapped forward as the chair jerked backward. His hands shot to the rims on instinct, trained reflex, controlled movement, but physics doesn't negotiate. The chair tilted hard. "You people always have an excuse," Harrow said, breath tight with irritation. "Act helpless, blame everybody else, I've seen it." The front wheels lifted, then the world flipped. Marcus hit the pavement shoulder first. His palms tore open against rough concrete, tiny stones biting into skin. The impact shot up his spine, but below his waist there was only that same empty silence he'd lived with for years. His legs folded beneath him, twisted at angles that would have triggered agony in any other man, but his face didn't break. The wheelchair crashed beside him, one wheel spinning slowly in the heat. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. "He can't walk," someone shouted. Marcus inhaled through his nose, controlled, measured, dust coated his tongue. The sun pressed hot against his cheek. "I'm a disabled veteran," he said quietly, hoodie loitering. "Outside a federal building," Harrow fired back. "Wheelchair doesn't cancel suspicion, fits the profile perfectly." "Profile?" a voice echoed. Harrow stepped closer, his shadow swallowing Marcus's face. "Play the victim all you want." "That routine's predictable." Marcus didn't argue. Instead, his eyes moved slowly, deliberately, to the polished nameplate on the officer's chest. Harrow. He memorized it the way soldiers memorize terrain. Around them, whispers thickened. Some uneasy, some approving, some just watching. A knee pressed into Marcus's back. "Don't test me." A child began crying. Then the officer's shoulder radio crackled sharply. "Unit 12, update. Suspect apprehended 2 blocks east." "Repeat, apprehended." Harrow's grip faltered. Above the plaza, the courthouse public display screen flickered, not randomly, but deliberately overridden from inside the security control room. Static washed across it. Then live surveillance footage filled the massive screen, and every head tilted upward. Marcus Ellison's world had shrunk to the 32-inch width of his wheelchair, the narrow corridor of his apartment, the exact space he needed to navigate without scraping walls. The kitchen counters were at precise heights, cabinets low enough to reach without effort. Every surface, every corner had a purpose. The place was sterile, military in its order. On the wall, a single frame held a bronze star and a photograph of him with 2 fellow soldiers, faces caked in dirt, grins wide with triumph. That photo wasn't just memory. It was his second life, the one Afghanistan had stolen in an instant with a buried IED. He moved with ritual precision. Each morning, Marcus ran his hands over the wheels, checking for grit, adjusting brakes, wiping rims until they gleamed. His palms were scarred, faintly but permanently, a map of the day he crawled through rubble to save his unit. The muscles in his arms flexed like springs as he shifted from chair to bed. Alone, he had control. Outside, control was a fragile illusion. "I'm not broken," he whispered to himself, voice low. "Just different," but on the streets, medals didn't matter. On city sidewalks, all that existed was color, chair, and assumption. A week before the courthouse, Marcus had entered a small bank downtown. An elderly woman recoiled instinctively, gripping her bag as he rolled past. The clerk, instead of addressing him, spoke to a random man standing behind Marcus, as if the man, not Marcus, was the one who belonged in the bank. A security guard trailed silently, eyes fixed not on Marcus's face but on his chair. Marcus noticed, cataloged, but did not react. He had fought explosions, bullets, fire. This was quieter, yet no less painful. He could feel the prejudice pressing in on him, heavier than any weight he had lifted in the military. Outside, the city was a war zone without flashbangs, microaggressions, cold stares, sideways glances. Bus drivers hesitated before letting him on. Teenagers snickered from the curb. Store clerks ignored his greetings, talking over him to companions as though he were invisible. He had learned to navigate this silent hostility, calculating routes, observing exits, controlling posture and expression. Every movement was a shield. Marcus touched the frame on his wall every morning, the metal, the dirt-streaked faces, the memory of camaraderie and courage. But outside, that proof of valor remained hidden, a private inheritance of honor against a world that refused to see him. Marcus had a morning routine before leaving for court. Clean the chair, check bolts, inspect rims, wipe off dust. Each task was exact, deliberate, almost sacred. By the time he rolled into the plaza, he was a machine of discipline, a soldier whose battlefield was the sidewalk, whose weapon was restraint. He arrived to the courthouse not for pity, not for recognition. He was there to fight paperwork, testimonies, legal precedent, a battle for rights, for accessibility, for fairness. Every inch of the plaza was observed. He knew eyes followed him, some curious, some disapproving, most dismissive. Today he would be measured not by courage, but by skin, posture, and chair. Officer Daniel Harrow leaned back in his patrol car, coffee lukewarm in hand, eyes scanning the courthouse plaza. He considered himself the city's shield. 15 years of policing had taught him that hesitation was dangerous. His philosophy was simple. If you look suspicious, you are suspicious. My job isn't to prove innocence. It's to remove threats. Profiling wasn't prejudice to him. It was logic. Numbers didn't lie. You don't see color, he once told a junior officer. Then you're gambling with your life. Harrow's eyes zeroed in on Marcus immediately. A black man in a hoodie in a wheelchair, hovering near the courthouse entrance. He didn't see a veteran. He didn't see pain or discipline. He saw potential threat. His mind translated Marcus into a file, a profile. Possibly selling, possibly hiding, possibly dangerous. He radioed a colleague. Look at this guy in the chair. Third time he's circled the plaza, probably looking for a spot to drop a package or sell something. They think the chair is a cloak of invisibility. Nearby, a white teenager on a skateboard passed the same route, hoodie on, hands in pockets, seemingly suspicious. Harrow smiled, shaking his head. Kid's harmless, nothing more. The racism filter had just spoken. Harrow's past included 2 complaints for unnecessary force. Both times the department called it pressure-induced decisions. To him, caution equaled morality. Any hesitation meant weakness. Marcus wasn't just a man, he was a test, a puzzle, a statistic. As Marcus rolled toward the courthouse doors, every move calculated, every breath measured, he carried the weight of unseen battles. Combat scars, the daily prejudice, the micro-assaults of society. Outside, the sun glared, reflecting off metal, concrete, and phone screens. Every eye that met his measured him, not the soldier, not the man, but the black man in a wheelchair. Harrow followed each of Marcus's movements, hand brushing the radio, heart primed for control. Every instinct told him that today, action was necessary. His training, bias, and institutional reinforcement had aligned into a single trajectory. Marcus's discipline met Harrow's self-righteousness, a silent collision brewing on the concrete. The plaza narrowed into a battlefield. Marcus's dignity, nearly invisible to others, faced Harrow's blind certainty. Every detail, the width of the path, the spin of the wheels, the stares of onlookers, compounded the tension. Today, Marcus was not seeking mercy. He was seeking justice, and Harrow, in his mind, was already the judge. The courthouse plaza baked under the late afternoon sun. Concrete shimmered with heat, stretching shadows of the surrounding buildings across Marcus Ellison's path. Each rotation of his wheelchair wheels was precise, deliberate, a hum of control over the small world he could govern. Every inch of the plaza had been catalogued in his mind. Exits, camera positions, clusters of people. He moved with the quiet focus of a soldier on patrol, trained to survive, disciplined to endure. Officer Daniel Harrow leaned against his patrol car, coffee forgotten. His gaze locked onto Marcus immediately. Black man, hoodie, wheelchair, courthouse plaza. The combination was a match for the profile he had memorized over years. Unit 12, Harrow spoke into the radio, voice low, tight. Suspect circling plaza. Same hoodie, same chair. Probably planning something. Keep eyes on him. A white teenager on a skateboard passed. Same hoodie style, hands in pockets, posture slightly hunched. Harrow smiled and shook his head. Kid's fine, nothing to see here. The mental filter was obvious. Black man, threat, white boy, harmless. Marcus rolled closer to the courthouse doors. His hearing wasn't for attention, it was for justice. He had arrived early to ensure seating for a case about accessibility violations. His movements were careful, deliberate. Harrow stepped forward, boots crunching gravel. You again, he said, voice measured, intentionally casual. Thought you'd sneak by, Marcus's lips pressed tight. He did not respond. He did not flinch. Only his hands rested lightly on the wheels, ready to pivot if necessary. You people always have an excuse, Harrow spat, stepping closer. Act helpless, blame everyone else, I've seen it before. The words hit hard and the crowd sensed it. Phones rose. Mothers pulled children closer. Murmurs swelled. But Marcus remained silent, his face calm, a controlled storm beneath still waters. Harrow gripped the wheelchair handles. Marcus instinctively braced, pivoting to maintain balance. The chair tilted backward. "Stop resisting," Harrow yelled, voice sharp, echoing across the plaza, but Marcus did not scream. He did not cry out. The contrast was striking. Harrow's shouts filled the air. Marcus's silence was deafening. Metal scraped concrete with a harsh, grinding scream. Dust and grit filled the air. Harrow bent closer, pretending to check Marcus's legs. He jabbed a boot against Marcus's knee. "Act like a victim all you want. I've seen this act before." The crowd froze. This was no accident. The deliberate cruelty, the testing of a disabled veteran, made their stomachs twist. Phones recorded every moment. Every contrast between Marcus's silent endurance and Harrow's aggressive noise amplified hatred for the officer. Marcus's legs, twisted under him, remained motionless. Pain registered somewhere deep inside, but discipline held him upright. His arms flexed, hands gripping rims, every muscle controlled, every breath measured. Harrow straightened, a grin tugging at his lips. He believed he had won, that authority was asserted. He did not yet know the plaza was under surveillance. Above, the courthouse's display screen flickered, showing live footage. Marcus's calm, measured approach from the sidewalk, compliant, nothing threatening. Harrow's chest rose, pride swelling. "I'm in control," he thought. "This is how you handle suspects." His victory was public, or so he assumed. Suddenly, the screen revealed the undeniable truth. Marcus had done nothing wrong. No threats, no aggression, no evasion. Every movement, captured from multiple angles, proved it. The plaza erupted in whispers. "Why is he being treated like this? Look at him, he's a veteran. This isn't right." Harrow's grip faltered. The authority he wielded so confidently began to crumble under the collective gaze of witnesses and the irrefutable visual evidence. Marcus pushed himself upright, dust settling over his shoulders. His body trembled slightly, not from fear, but from controlled effort. Every motion radiated the dignity of a soldier, disciplined and unbroken, even as humiliation attempted to crush him. From the control room, a security officer had overridden the system, forcing live truth onto the big screen. The instant revelation of Marcus's innocence collided with Harrow's false confidence, exposing his bias in front of the public. A child's voice rang out from the plaza, sharp and innocent. "Why is he on the ground?" The crowd's energy surged. Gasps, murmurs, and whispers became a collective weight pressing down on Harrow. Marcus's silence spoke louder than any command. His calm, controlled presence radiated a dignity that contrasted violently with Harrow's blind prejudice. The officer's self-righteous pride had evaporated. The plaza was no longer just a courthouse square, it was a moral arena. Marcus, disciplined, silent, and unbroken, had already won. His strength was in restraint, his courage in composure, his victory in visibility against injustice. The plaza had shifted from ordinary heat to the heavy weight of public scrutiny. Phones hovered like hovering hawks, capturing every angle, every detail of the confrontation. Marcus Ellison remained in his wheelchair, dust clinging to the shoulders of his jacket, breathing slow and deliberate, each inhale a testament to discipline earned in battle. The crowd pressed closer, murmurs weaving into a low, electric hum of collective judgment. From the periphery, a passerby bent to pick up Marcus's military ID and disabled veteran license, dusting them off carefully before handing them back. His voice carried over the plaza, sharp and accusatory. "You just dragged a Bronze Star recipient through the dirt. Are you proud of yourself?" Every word landed like a hammer blow. Phones zoomed in, live streams pivoting to catch the moment. Gasps and whispers rippled through the crowd, the weight of undeniable proof now pressed on Officer Harrow. Harrow's face drained of color, lips trembling, eyes flicking between the crowd, the evidence, and Marcus himself. His patrol partner took a cautious step back, holding up hands in silent surrender. "I'm not going down for this, Daniel. You're on your own," he muttered. The words punctuated the officer's isolation, the social abandonment mirroring the moral weight pressing on him. Marcus's legs remained tucked under him, controlled, his arms steady on the wheelchair rims. Dust settled around him like a halo, glittering faintly in the sunlight. He had not shouted, he had not struggled. Silence was his armor, dignity his weapon. The crowd's attention fixed not on action, but on presence, the quiet, measured resilience of a man wronged yet unbroken. The sudden rumble of a black command car drew every gaze. It rolled slowly into the plaza, tires crunching lightly on the concrete. A senior officer emerged, sharp and unhurried, scanning the scene. His eyes settled first on Marcus, assessing his condition, then moved to the trembling Harrow. His voice, calm but absolute, cut through the murmurs. "Hand me your badge, Daniel. You're done." The plaza seemed to exhale collectively. The public spectacle of accountability was immediate, undeniable. Harrow's attempts at defense faltered. It's complicated," he stammered, desperation creeping into his tone. "You weren't there, you don't know the risks I take." The words fell hollow against the weight of evidence, against the collective gaze of witnesses, against the presence of authority now holding him to account. Phones recorded every syllable. Every eye in the plaza was a witness, every whisper a judgment. Marcus allowed himself a slow exhale, a measured release of tension. He wheeled forward a few inches, aligning his ID and veteran license on his lap so that anyone glancing could see the truth shining in the sunlight. His victory was not in revenge, but in being seen, fully, undeniably, without apology or compromise. As he moved toward the courthouse doors, each rotation deliberate and precise, the murmurs of the crowd followed, now tinged with admiration. The weight of prejudice had met the unflinching resilience of a disciplined soldier. Harrow, abandoned, isolated, and exposed, remained pressed against the patrol car, his authority shattered. The plaza had become more than concrete and sunlight. It was a moral arena, a stage where courage, composure, and undeniable proof outweighed blind authority. Marcus's wheelchair wheels clicked against the tiles, a quiet cadence of triumph. His presence, disciplined and upright, was the message, the statement, the enduring proof that dignity can outshine cruelty. The plaza had witnessed it all, the moral reckoning as public as the injustice had been. Every eye, every camera, every heart now carried the truth. Marcus Ellison had not just survived, he had commanded the respect that justice demands. The courthouse plaza held its breath, the heat of the late afternoon sun mingling with the collective tension. Phones hovered midair, recording, streaming, the world watching in real time. Above, the courthouse display flickered and shifted, controlled from the security room. Live footage now showed Marcus Ellison approaching, every movement deliberate, precise, a veteran's discipline evident in the smooth, measured rotation of his wheelchair wheels. Harrow's eyes narrowed, initially blind to the multiple angles. Then the screen changed. A data overlay appeared with bold letters, impossible to ignore. Subject identified, SGT. Marcus Ellison, Bronze Star recipient. The plaza reacted as one. Gasps, murmurs, astonished whispers rippled through the crowd. Mothers pulled their children closer. Phones zoomed in, capturing the revelation in high definition. Marcus had not resisted. He had not threatened. He had only arrived, calm, composed, and entirely innocent. Harrow's lips parted, a flicker of doubt crossing his face. The crowd sensed it. Silence fell heavier than any shout. Marcus's legs, twisted under him from earlier contact, were steady now as he held himself upright, hands on the wheelchair rims. Pain lingered, but control prevailed. His gaze, unwavering, found Harrow's. The words were calm, a quiet thunder. "I've faced enemies who were more honest than you." The security officer's voice echoed, firm, unflinching, everything captured. The footage displayed multiple perspectives, the sidewalk, the plaza corner, the cafe across the street, all showing Marcus's deliberate, lawful approach. There was no hiding, no evasion, no threat, just a man moving with intent, dignity intact. A child's voice rang out from the crowd. "Why is he on the ground?" Phones recorded it, and the words seemed to pierce the plaza's heat, cutting straight to the heart of truth. Murmurs escalated, turning into a wave of audible judgment. The injustice of Harrow's actions now lay exposed, undeniable. From a black command car, a senior officer emerged. His presence carried authority, yet calm. He walked deliberately to Marcus, taking in the scene, the dust, the tension, the veteran's composed posture, and then turned toward Harrow. Marcus's eyes remained forward, but the gravity of the moment was shared. The officer saluted Marcus, crisp and formal, a recognition of courage, service, and dignity. Harrow froze, exposed, unable to respond. Harrow's partner stepped back, hesitant, muttering, "I'm not going down for this, Daniel." "You're on your own." The plaza pressed around him, a living courtroom where the witnesses, the crowd, the cameras, the screens refused to yield. Harrow was isolated, trapped in the web of his own assumptions. Marcus slowly wheeled forward, each motion deliberate, projecting calm authority. The plaza's energy shifted from outrage to awe. Phones recorded, the crowd watched, and the world witnessed. The veteran, dragged through the dirt, had reclaimed his presence. Silence now spoke louder than any scream or accusation. Truth, dignity, and honor radiated from him, unbroken, commanding, undeniable. The revelation had completed its arc. Marcus Ellison was no longer just a man in a wheelchair. He was a Bronze Star recipient, a disciplined soldier, and now a symbol of endurance against prejudice. Harrow's false authority had shattered in front of every witness, his isolation complete, his bias exposed. The plaza was a moral arena, and justice, quiet, firm, and visual, had been rendered. The plaza remained tense, a charged silence stretching between Marcus Ellison and the man who had tried to humiliate him. Dust settled on the concrete like powdered judgment. Harrow's chest rose and fell rapidly, pride and anger warring with humiliation. He had thought control was his alone to wield, but the world had disagreed. Every camera, every phone, every eye in that space had witnessed the truth. Marcus's gaze never wavered. Hands gripping the rims of his wheelchair, he pushed forward slowly, deliberately toward the courthouse doors. The bronze star pinned to his chest in memory, the physical evidence of his service, the ID fallen to the ground and picked up by a bystander, had done its work. Every movement radiated measured composure. Every rotation of his wheels declared that dignity could not be stolen, not by brute force, not by prejudice. Harrow staggered backward, his boots scuffing against the concrete. His partner kept a wary distance, eyes flicking between Harrow and the growing crowd. "Daniel, I told you," he muttered, a note of finality in his voice. There would be no cover, no excuses left unchallenged. Harrow's voice cracked, a raw mixture of defiance and desperation. "You weren't there. You don't know the risks I take." But the crowd's murmur only grew louder, a living record of accountability. A senior officer's footsteps echoed on the plaza. His black command car gleamed in the fading sun as he approached, the weight of authority unmistakable. He stopped before Harrow, silence thick around them both. Without a word, he held out his hand. "Badge, now." Harrow's face paled, the finality sinking in. He fumbled, reluctant, isolated, the plaza's witnesses unblinking, unyielding. Marcus continued forward, passing by the scene with slow dignity. His lips pressed lightly together, expression calm, a silent acknowledgement of the chaos he had endured without losing control. From the plaza's edge, reporters scribbled notes, captured footage, and whispered into microphones, documenting what the cameras had already immortalized, the contrast of restraint against blind aggression, of honor against prejudice. Harrow finally handed over his badge, shoulders slumping as if the weight of his actions had become tangible. His partner shook his head, stepping away, leaving Harrow alone in the plaza. Phones still recorded, the crowd still watched, and every detail of his failed authority was etched into the narrative forever. Marcus paused at the courthouse steps, taking a slow, steady breath. He lifted his gaze to the building's entrance, to the courtroom where justice awaited, not as a concept, but as an active principle. Every eye on him seemed to acknowledge the truth. He had endured, he had persisted, and he had done so with unwavering composure. No shout, no shove, no act of cruelty had diminished him. The plaza's energy shifted from tension to quiet reverence. Spectators stepped aside, murmuring their astonishment. Phones recorded one last time as Marcus wheeled himself through the doors, each rotation of his wheels deliberate, almost ceremonial. His victory was not vengeance, it was presence, perseverance, and the undeniable assertion of his humanity. Harrow remained in the sun, isolated, stripped of authority and credibility. Marcus's silhouette disappeared into the courthouse, but the plaza carried the weight of the moment. A veteran, a man wronged, had reclaimed dignity in full view of the world, and in that silence, the plaza itself seemed to acknowledge the truth. Courage and integrity cannot be dragged into the dirt. Justice had arrived, not as spectacle, but as proof, not as anger, but as undeniable presence. Marcus Ellison's wheels had carried him through more than concrete. They had rolled him through the prejudice, the cruelty, and the assumptions of a world that often looks but does not see. Today it had seen. The courthouse plaza was empty now, sunlight fading into long, soft shadows. Dust lingered in the air, glinting like fragments of truth caught between the cracks of concrete. Marcus Ellison sat quietly in his wheelchair, wheels still, hands resting lightly on the rims. The battle was over, but the echo of it remained, not in anger, but in the steady rhythm of resilience. He thought of the children who had watched, eyes wide with disbelief, of the strangers who had lifted his fallen ID, their hands offering respect without a word, of the cameras and phones that had recorded every moment. Each witness, whether silent or vocal, had become a part of the story, proof that injustice, no matter how brazen, could be confronted with dignity. From the shadows of the plaza, Officer Harrow had been escorted away, isolated and stripped of pretense. Marcus didn't gloat. His victory wasn't revenge, it was presence. The weight of honor and discipline carried him forward, wheels turning smoothly, guiding him toward the courtroom and toward life beyond this single, harrowing day. In the quiet of the fading light, Marcus whispered to himself, a soft truth meant only for him. Courage isn't loud. It's standing firm when the world doubts you. It's being seen and staying unbroken. The plaza seemed to hold its breath, as if the stones themselves understood. A veteran, a soldier, a man tested by fire and cruelty, had shown the world that dignity cannot be dragged into the dirt. And in that lesson, brief but eternal, justice had quietly, firmly prevailed. Even in silence, he had spoken volumes.